Yesterday, great question. Can I run a marathon of 3 times a week running and loads of cross training and strength training as well? The short answer is yes. If you are completely focused, if the cross training is focused on the marathon, if the strength training is focused on getting strong enough to run, and the 3 runs are like dedicated and focused enough for you to run the marathon, then yeah, if you've got kind of 8 to 12 weeks, you've ran a marathon before, you've got some kind of talent, you've got some ability to be able to do it. Lots of factors play into it. Depends on the person, it depends on how dedicated you are, depends on when in the day you're actually running. A lot of factors depend on whether that's actually possible. But the short version is that if you're just running once a week and you're just for instance, if you are running once a week and you're gradually building up your long run. So first week you never ran before, so first week 2 kilometers, next week 3 kilometers, next week 4 kilometers, and you get it right. Eventually you will be able to run a marathon. It's that simple. So it depends. Yes, you can run a marathon. Yes, you can complete a marathon. I believe that anybody can go out there, put 3 to 6 months together and be able to run a marathon. Everybody on the planet can run a marathon. That's not difficult. The difficult part is running it as fast as you can and to your optimal pace. And if you had, in this case, this gentleman's case was, he's had Achilles problems before, so he can only do so much running. So I'd say that definitely the strength training would be getting the big muscle strong, so focusing on the glutes, the hamstrings and the quads, focusing on the core as well, so the style, the kind of form retains in the second half of the marathon, but also concentrating on prehabilitation for the Achilles. And I've had Achilles issues before 6-7 years ago on both. And it's not fun. It's not fun. And so concentrating on prehabilitation, which is essentially preventative maintenance, to strengthen those Achilles. So not only are they taken care of and they're not going to re-injure, it's not in the back of your head all the time thinking that if I do a little bit more, is that going to flare up my Achilles tendonitis or tendinosis, whatever it may be, or any kind of Achilles problem. So taking care of that, so it kind of becomes a strength, not a weakness, is another like key element to that strength training, which can assist all the training, the cycling, the cross training, whatever you're doing. And then it also comes to what cross training you're doing as well. Now the bike is brilliant for cross training, especially for the marathon and any ultra marathon as well. So if you're doing a lot of time on the bike, my best times in running have always been when I'm doing at least 250-300 kilometers, so at least 10 hours a week on the bike, and ideally 15 hours a week, so between 300 and 500 kilometers a week on the bike, which in miles 180 to 300 miles a week. And so if you're adding that, and especially going uphill, and especially kind of having a bike fit and making sure that you're using the running muscles, the glutes and the hamstrings to push the pedals, and you're not doing, it's a weird thing with cycling as cross training for running, but if you're doing a lot of climbing and you're up out of the saddle, that's great because it's more emulating the running position, but you're also pulling, if you think about it, you're pulling, especially if you're clipped in, you're pulling the pedal up, so you're using the quad in a strange way, and therefore you build in muscle in the quad, which you don't need for running, and especially flat running. And so what I found when I did too much mountainous cycling, with too much kind of like elevation, if you like, you would call it in America, is that I was building those muscles in the quad that pull the pedal up through the cycle rotation. And then when I was doing a marathon or I was doing a flat ultra marathon, I'd start to get tired in muscles that I didn't need for running, if that makes sense. So plenty of cross training. You can do easy cycling, high cadence, try to kind of be 90 to 110 cadence. Just try and keep it really light. And what I mean by that is try and keep it really light on power, so off the muscles and onto the heart and lungs. whatever cross training you're doing, whether it's cycling, swimming, rowing, whatever. Skiing is obviously a big one, ski mountaineering if you live near the mountains in the winter. Try and take it off the muscles and onto the heart, lungs and the blood. If you can build through another sport, it's kind of like having free, you're building the running engine without the pounding on the muscles, the ligaments, the joints, etc. Yeah. So if you can build the cardiovascular system and build, great blood, improved cardiovascular system, improved endurance, you're essentially getting especially if you can get out on the bike for 3-4 hours, there's not many times you can get out and do 3-4 hour runs. So in the past, that's been a really big area where I've done a lot of 3, 4, 5, 6 hour bike rides, which is coming great from racing 100 kilometers. That's going to be a 6 hour plus race. So that's been perfect for me. I've never been good in the pool. I've never used it much, but I know a lot of triathletes that say once they've got their swimming in check, that the bike, the swimming and the running naturally gets better because they've got all that time, and that's more kind of technique. But you're still getting that cardiovascular workout, and it's definitely less pounding on the joints and muscles and thingy. You're in the water, so that's obvious. Yeah. Yesterday I literally just started yesterday doing some work on the rower because I'm trying to kind of fix a place here when it's so hot outside and there's so few cyclists around. Trying to fix a place where I can do some rowing and put some rowing into it. And obviously that's great for if you can use the right muscles. And again, it's the right muscles, so it's like the bike fit. If you can be using the glutes and the hamstrings to pull the rower and not so much upper body, that's going to be a great replacement as well. So in short, yeah, you can essentially run once a week and do nothing else, and you can run a marathon. But it's how fast you want to do it and what you actually want to get out of it. If you want to build a robust body, you got to do lots of cross training. And then the strength training has got to be very specific towards your running. The big power muscles, look after the core. And again, if it's Achilles issues that are holding you back on the running, add in prehabilitation. And if you need those, I can definitely do those. And I'll do a gym session where had big problems, out for 6 weeks, out for a little bit longer, re-injured, all that kind of frustration, and then went to see my guy in the UK, GB Physio, who now works for one of the cycling teams, I think Ineos or whatever they call now, Ineos Gradiers or something like that. Really, really good physio. He gave me 3 exercises to do. Within 2 weeks, I'd gone from my bed to running pain-free. So I can do that for you, no problem at all. In terms of the running, if you're doing all that cross training and it's supporting, so you're doing an interval session and you're doing a long run within those 3 runs, then if you're doing the bike afterwards as a recovery on the day after, that's perfect. If you're doing whatever other recovery cross training tools, if you're doing those on the days afterwards and use them as recovery days, great. If you can then slot in a longer ride, for instance on the bike, or a longer session cross training, and you can add that in as a kind of medium long run, I would always suggest as a marathon runner that you're building up to kind of 35, 40, 45k, but also you've got that nice little 25k run where you can kind of slot that in, and it can be at a good pace, not too taxing on the body, so you can still do the midweek interval running and the weekend long run to build endurance. But you can that 25k long run, which is a nice little sweet spot run, you can put that into a cycle, and you can be doing intervals also on the bike. So put together a plan and how many weeks you've got, how many months you've got before the event. Definitely possible. Make sure everything's focused towards the running if that's your key focus. And look after your Achilles as well. So look after your Achilles in the gym right from day one. There are things that you can be doing that you will stop that being a concern. And I know what it's like to have that. It's always in the back of your mind. You're always thinking, well, what if it flares up? It's going to stop me from doing what I love, and therefore I want to avoid it. And these are the main reasons that people kind of fall out of love for running, because they do too much too soon, or they do too much volume too soon, or too much distance too soon on the long run, or too many hills too soon, or too much speed work too soon. And things like the Achilles are naturally, through mythical or historical times, that's our weak spot. And if that hurts and starts to hurt and starts to become a weakness for you, it doesn't go away unless you really fix it. So I will do a video on that because I think for me, it's been gold. I still do it to this day because it's so important for those to be strong points in my game. But yeah, long story short, three days a week running, plus your cross training, plus your strength. If it's all dedicated to the marathon, you can do it. If it's not even dedicated to the marathon and you're doing that level of work, you can do a marathon, no problem at all.